Good evening and welcome everyone to the Maths and Science Learning Area Information Webinar. We know you have a choice in education providers, and CRC Sydenham is already your school, being from the Federation of Catholic Regional College. But we know you have that choice, and we want to assure you that we are committed to helping your children and you understand the journey that you're about to take with us. This is a partnership, so we look forward to journeying with you. As is always our tradition when we gather, we will start with prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father in heaven, we praise you for giving us your Son to be our Saviour and Lord. Bless us all as we gather online here tonight, and let us live happily in your love. Hear our prayer, loving Father, for we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. My name is Brendan Watson. I'm the principal at the college, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening online. We have two of our learning area conveners, Satnesh Lingham and Fiona Heathcote, who are going to speak, first of all, with the learning area captains, our learning area captains here tonight, and then we will open it up for questions. We know that maths and science are some of the more popular areas of study, particularly for those wanting to go on to tertiary studies and receive an ATAR to get into tertiary studies. So we know that you'll have a lot of questions about the range of subjects we offer. Please feel free to put those down in the Q&A section at the bottom of the webinar, and to post those, and we'll get to them through the night and post the responses as well. This video will be available online if you wish to refer back to it. It'll be on our YouTube channel. So I'll now hand over to Satnesh Lingham, our mathematics learning area convener. Satnesh, over to you.
Thank you, Brendan. First of all, once again, welcome to all the families who are actually participating in the webinar tonight. What I'll do first of all is share my screen with all of you so you can see what I'll speak on, and then if you've got any questions, right, as Brandon said, you can put it in the Q&A section, and we'll try and go through those questions as we go along. Right, hopefully you can see my screen. Now, joining me today to speak about maths is our learning area captain from maths, Jana Tegala. So she'll also be able to answer some of the questions that we have tonight. Now, very quickly, I'll take you through, very briefly, I'll take you through the list of subjects that we offer at VC Mathematics. Now we have got, all up, we have got 6 subjects. Normally, the units 1 and 2, they are done at E11 level, and units 3 and 4, they are done at E12. Now, we do have some students who have some sort of an early commencement. That means back in year 10, they pick up some units 1 and 2, which means when they come to us in year 11, they are able to then pick up a unit 3 and 4, right? So that's just a small group of people, but generally speaking, most of our students, they do units 1 and 2 in year 11 and units 3 and 4 when they go to year 12. Now, what I've tried to do is to put all the information into maybe one slide here, which through the help of a flow chart, hopefully I can explain what we offer and how students can then set up the pathways coming into year 11 and then moving on to year 12. And I've tried to color code it. So as you can see, green in year 11. So if a student is doing general maths 1 and 2 in year 11, that normally leads to further maths in year 12. Likewise, if you look at the next one, if a student is doing maths methods in year 11, right, that's units 1 and 2, that has got 2 options. So in year 12, that student can then pick up either further maths, or they can pick up maths methods, or they can pick up both. Right? That's also an option. And the third option in year 11, students can do specialist maths, and with that, it's a requirement that whenever a student picks up a specialist math subject, with that, they need to pick up maths methods. And the reason why we do that, because these two are complementary subjects. A number of topics in these two subjects, they overlap, and we have seen students benefit greatly when they do these two together. Once they do these two together in year 11, then moving on to year 12, they have got those four options. So either they can continue with the same combination in year 12, or they can just do maths methods, or they want to pick up further maths, right? Or as I've said, they can do a combination of further maths and maths methods. Now, hopefully this flow chart would help the current year 10s, decide on their pathways for the next 2 years. Now, to the small group of year 10s who are actually doing some sort of early commencement, they are doing, some VC units at this stage. Right? That means, for example, if you've got students right now in year 10 doing general maths 1 and 2, so when they come and do E11 here, they can straight away pick up further maths. And likewise, we have got a group of students who are doing maths methods 1 and 2 while they're in year 10 this year. So when they come to us next year in E11, they can straight away pick up maths methods 3 and 4, right? So it's just a sequence that would follow. So if they've done the requirements in year 10, they can then move on and pick up the follow-on subject. Right, in the next few slides, I have put up in a table, I have tried to put up things like, for example, to help students decide what maths they need to do and the type of maths at year 10 they would have done this year, so that they are able to go into. So for example, let's say if a student in year 10 does core or essential, right, he or she might decide to do general maths in year 11. And so the requirements, as you can see, the third column of general maths, and that leads into further maths in year 12. So I've got 2 or 3 slides full of this information. I'm not going to speak about all that right now. It will get a bit boring. What I'm going to do after the presentation is finished, this PowerPoint slide would be available, and we can send this across to you guys, right, to have a read through that. Likewise, right, for methods there, as you can see on your screen, what students would have done in year 10, core plus or essential plus, and that can lead on to maths methods 1 and 2 in year 11, and then finally the last column on the far right, that gives you the combinations for year 12. Right, so all this information I've already put up in that flow chart that I showed up before. Right, again, maths methods and special combination. Right, you've got in year 10 students would have done core plus or essential plus, right, depending on which campus you're from. They do different versions of it, and then finally leading into year 12, you have got those options there. Right, and then we also have a small group of students who'd like to pick up further maths as an enrichment subject when they come to year 11 without having done any VC units in year 10. So if that's the case, right, if they want to pick up further maths as an enrichment subject, they will need to pick up a separate application form from the year 10 teachers. And when they do further maths here with combination, they have to do then maths methods units 1 and 2. Right, so this is a very small group of students, and this then needs a special form approval, and then it comes to us, right, for us to say, right, without having done general maths 1 and 2, you can pick up further maths. All right, and on the last slide for maths, there's a few statements. Of course, students need a CAS calculator. I think most of them already have it in year 10 right now, and then it's just giving you a couple of notes in terms of if you're selecting SPECH, then with that you got to select maths methods. And if a student is doing further maths, year 11 student doing further maths without having done general maths 1 and 2, with that they need to pick up maths methods also. Right, so that's a couple of slides for mathematics. Now I will hand over to our science learning area convener, Fiona, who will speak on science, and then we'll take questions from all of you. Over to you, Fiona.
Thank you very much, Satnesh. You can see from the slide that's up here now is that we've also got Lauren Fabreo, who teaches both maths and science. She teaches psychology, so she's also here to help us answer any questions this evening. And our science captain, Lucas, has joined us. And Lucas is a wonderful ambassador for science, so it's great to have him here this evening to also answer any questions and provide you with a bit of a snippet of life as a science student at CRC. Thanks, Satnesh. Satnesh is in control of the PowerPoint this evening, so I will keep asking him to move it as we go along. So just to summarise the subjects that we have, they're listed here for you. We've got biology, chemistry, environmental science, we have physics, psychology, and then we also have vet laboratory skills. So each of those subjects runs across both year 11 and 12. The first 5 that are listed run from units 1 to 4. And VCE VET, the laboratory skills, runs as a 2-year course, and students can do this as a scored subject in year 12, and they can also receive a Certificate 3 in laboratory skills. So a nationally recognised qualification before they've even completed school, which is a great advantage for those students interested in pursuing a career either in in that particular field, or also to help them develop their skills in relation particularly to chemistry and biology. We also offer some single unit subjects, so those are biology, environmental science and psychology. And like some of the math students that come to us, is that we have students who would have completed units 1 and 2 biology or psychology at their feeder campuses, which means there's the potential for them to step into units 3 and 4 when they come to CRC. Thanks, Satnesh. The next couple of slides take you through some complementary subjects for each of the subjects on offer. One of my children is going through the process of choosing her subjects for VCE right now too. So we've had a lot of conversations at home around this, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. I think one of the things, just as Satnesh spoke about, is thinking about, I guess, where you want to be heading, what you're interested in, what you are good at, like where your talents lie, and then coming up with a program of subjects that are going to be complementary to one another and lead you to your ultimate pathway if you've managed to, identify that already. So of course, for both biology and chemistry, we'd be looking at English. It's something that's a bit of a given. And we've got those other complementary subjects listed there. When we start to get to chemistry, there are some maths skills required for that. So as a minimum, I would be recommending general mathematics. We find that students who are doing a higher maths than general maths often find the mathematics demands of chemistry a bit easier if they've got that maths background also. Thanks, Satnesh. Looking at environmental science, we've got biology, chemistry and lab skills all fit very nicely within that. Physics lends itself more towards the mathematics side, of course, and considering chemistry is also goes very nicely with physics, because there's overlap, of course, between physics and chemistry, and then chemistry, biology, and as we can see from the complementary subjects, excuse me, listed here. Psychology, English and biology. So apart from the fact that students need to study English throughout VCE, is that those language skills, those abilities to communicate effectively in science are really important ones. So that's something that students shouldn't ignore. Thank you, Satnesh. When we're thinking about prerequisites and co-requisites, is that we don't have any for the science subjects offered at Sydenham. What we would be looking at though is a reasonable achievement in science at year 10 level to give an indication that students are adequately prepared for the rigours of science. There is a lot of work associated with these subjects, as there is with mathematics and many others. While we've got this slide up, actually, these are some pictures of our students from Lab Skills who came in during lockdown last year to complete some laboratory time. when everyone else was at home. So it was quite a strange thing, but a lovely thing to be back on campus with students and seeing them learning and participating in this way. And I think maybe this is a good opportunity to throw to Lucas, because he is also studying this particular subject. Lucas, would you be happy to talk about your subjects that you're studying and your experiences at CRC?
Yeah, of course, miss. So currently right now I am completing my final year of vet lab skills, and I'm also doing chemistry, biology, further mathematics, and normal English and religion. For science, particularly lab skills, as we can see on the screen right now, it's very focused on harnessing and refining those laboratory techniques. So making sure you have correct procedure and following instructions correctly. For chemistry, what we've been doing lately is focusing on organic compounds and looking at different molecules and how they interact with other molecules. And then for biology right now, we're mainly focusing on, now I can't remember. I'll get back to you later.
I think you're doing your AOS 3, which is a
so we're doing a report right now. Yeah, correct. So I'd like to say that one of the most important things that I was told by a teacher in year 10 is that you don't have to be like all maths sided with science. For me specifically, I came from doing general maths in year 11 to now doing further maths in year 12, and I'm doing chemistry as a subject. I think like what Fiona said before, we're looking for students who have a really good work ethic and who are really looking for a challenge and looking forward to coming to class every day. And if you can bring that to your class, I think you can get through any challenges these classes bring you. Yeah, that's my take on it.
You have such a great attitude towards school and learning, Lucas. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks, miss.
Thank you. Satnesh, could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So here's just a bit of, well, a few recommendations, and I think they're things that we've mostly said already, is that you should be choosing things that you enjoy, and you should be choosing things that fit well with your skill set. Science lends itself well to people who have a curiosity about the natural world around them, and there are many different ways to study that in the subjects that we offer at CRC. Even though year 11 and 12 are standalone for subjects, is that for most of them, we would actually recommend that you study them at year 11 and year 12. There are skills that you learn in year 11 which will make year 12 a much better year for you. So that would probably be my last piece of advice there. So thank you, Satnesh, if you would like to go to the next slide. I think we're back to Brendan now. Thank you. Sorry, Brendan, you just need to unmute yourself.
We might open it up for questions now. Thank you to our presenters. Are there any questions from families that you would like answered? Satnesh, I'm also conscious that we might like to hear a little bit more from our maths area captain.
Yep. All right. Shall I stop share now? Anybody wants to?
Perhaps we throw to our maths area captain, and then we'll go to questions. If people would like to type in their questions in the Q&A box, we're happy to answer them straight after the maths area captain has spoken. So Satnesh, would you like to do the introductions, please?
Yes. Jana Tegala is our maths learning area captain, and the reason why I've invited her today, Jana is one of the students who actually did some sort of an early commencement. That means while she was in year 11 last year, she managed to complete further maths, right? And that means now this year, of course, she's doing maths. So I'd like to call upon Jana to just share her experiences of maybe, having an early commencement and doing an enrichment subject while she was in year 11.
Yeah, that's no problem. So last year, my subjects were psychology, units 3 and 4, further maths 3 and 4, chem 1 and 2, bio 1, 2. English language 1-2 and methods 1-2. So I had a lot on my plate. And yeah, I think doing further and methods at the same time was a bit like kind of challenging, especially because methods is a bit more like, is a lot heavier than further, I think. But yeah, I think further is very enjoyable. It's something that everyone can do, I think. So it's a very safe choice for anyone who maybe doesn't want to do methods, but still wants to do like a math. I think it's a good choice for people to choose. But yeah, that's all I kind of have to say.
In terms of your maths methods this year, Jana, how are you traveling and how are you coping in terms of, what's the load like and,
So right now, because I finished psych and further, I've got 4 subjects. So I think the load is a lot lighter than last year. Methods, year 12 is a little bit of a step up from year 11, but I think if you got the determination, if you really like excelled and tried your best in year 11, you'll definitely do fine in year 12.
Now we have some questions. The first question is regarding RE Unit 1 and choosing biology. Would this be a combination of biology 1 and 2? Then in year 12, would I take biology 3 and 4? I might just talk about the half units before I throw to Fiona. The half units in year 11 allow students to try different subjects. So if you're doing, say, if you're looking at a chemistry and physics, you might try biology as a half unit. And I'll ask Fiona to talk about which half units might be available.
Yes, we have, I have unmuted, haven't I? Yes, we have biology, psychology and environmental science that are offered as single unit subjects. And looking at the question that we have here on the screen, there's a question regarding RE Unit 1 and choosing biology. If that's the case, we do biology Unit 2 as our single unit. And so in year 12, then if you did follow on and do that, yes, you would do the 3-4 sequence. Would you like me to
go on?
So I was going to say, would you like me to continue on with those questions, Brendan, or go back
well,
to
the next one
time?
is past VCE exam papers done in the classes for maths and science subjects. Perhaps our learning area captains might like to answer that one.
I can talk about this a little bit. So we're generally, depending on which teachers you have, they'll generally encourage you to do previous exam papers from different periods. Depending on which sections you might be focusing on in class, they'll ask you to do perhaps previous exam questions from one section, or perhaps if you're focusing on one section, they might ask you to do 2014 questions or 2015 questions, and so on and so forth. All of the previous exams and previous exam answers are available on the VCAR website. So I know personally for year 12 chem and bio, we tend to access those resources quite a lot.
Yes, in physics also, usually the way we use those exam papers is to break them down into the units that we're studying. So rather than give them to them as a whole paper, is that we're going through those particular questions when we're going through that content, so students can see the way that they will be assessed in the exam, to give them that experience. It helps them to build an understanding of the language used and the expectations. How are they expected to demonstrate their knowledge? So we use them in that way. Of course, as we approach exams, we have significant resources in terms of past exams that we give them, not just the VCAR exam questions.
What is the ratio of theoretical to practical in science? Would you like to answer that, Fiona?
Yes, I can answer that too, although Lucas might be able to talk to more about the biology at the moment. We don't have a biology teacher here with us. There are, before you go on, Lucas, there are a prescribed number of hours that should be dedicated to practical learning it isn't as much these days, I must say, as it was. When I was at school, we certainly seemed to do a lot more pracs. It is theory heavy, but those pracs definitely help with facilitating understanding. Sorry, Lucas, would you like to provide some more information?
Yeah, I was going to say, in COVID times, unfortunately, we didn't get to do a lot of the practicals that year 11s and year 12s would have generally gotten to do. And I know for this year, especially, like our pracs have been delayed quite a bit. In terms of the ratio, there is a lot of practical learning, but your teachers will try and make it fun. Well, yeah, they'll try and make it interesting for you. So even if you may not be the best at doing theoretical learning, your teachers will try and make it the best they can for you. So whether you're doing practical or theory learning, you will be doing your best 100%. And I know all the teachers here will try and encourage you as best they can.
Thanks, Lucas.
There's a mathematics question here, Satnesh, that's regarding maths. If a student chooses maths methods in year 11 and finds it hard, can you go down and do further maths?
Yes, the answer is yes. In fact, if you do maths methods in year 11, it gives you options for all 3 maths in year 12. So if a student does maths method in year 11, maybe finds it a bit difficult, they can always opt into further maths in year 12, right? So the answer is yes for that one.
Thank you, Satnesh. The next question is about the highest marks achieved in the last 2 years for a range of subjects: mathematical methods, biology, chemistry, and psychology. So we might start with Satnesh and then throw to Fiona.
About the highest mark, this is the study score we're looking at, I presume. Yeah,
I'd say so.
Yeah, in methods over the last 2 years, the highest study score, if I can recall from memory, was 44. That was not last year, but the year before, back in 2019, we got that score. So I'm not sure about the sciences, Fiona.
Yes, I have got, well, actually last year's numbers in front of me. I don't have the year before's. So in terms of, you're asking about biology was 42. I think chemistry was another one of the questions there. So 38. Physics was 37. Psychology 43, although I think that's also been a little bit higher in the previous year. And vet lab skills, we had an outstanding student last year who scored a 45. I think there were some differences in terms of some of last year's highest study scores. It was an interesting year because of the study design changes that were made, and in some respects it made it a bit harder for our top performing students to achieve in the same ways that they have in previous years. I think they did remarkably well to achieve what they did, and I'm not taking away from their achievement. What am I trying to say here is that it was less common across the board, not just at our school, for students to be getting those higher numbers that they might have in the past.
Each year that varies as well. So
Yeah.
we have had students achieve high 40s. We've even had perfect study scores across a range of the sciences and even in mathematics and other subjects. So it really is about consistency. Some of the challenges that our science students tend to face is around the literacy of the exam and writing. So it's important that they concentrate on their ability to enhance their writing skills through English, and then that will benefit all of their exams in the end. Now, the next question is for our learning area captains, and it's about what are their chosen careers. So I'll ask them to answer that.
Satnesh, would you like to go first? Awesome.
That's okay. So my chosen career is something like in the health medicine area. So like a doctor or like a nurse or something. You definitely don't have to like want to be any of those to do methods or further. It was just, I had to do those, but I do enjoy the subject. So.
And for me, I've been looking into pharmaceutical sciences and various laboratory jobs. the thing with science is that it gives you such a wide range. And now that we're in the time of choosing what university courses we want to go towards, it's definitely a tough choice. I'd just say I'm looking for something in chemistry. And for all you people who are looking to choose something in once you get to year 12, just choose something you guys enjoy. That's all there is to it.
If a student is currently undertaking a pre-methods advanced mathematics at their 7 to 10 college as their chosen math stream, will general maths be easier, Satnesh?
Yes, if a student is doing pre-methods in year 10, which means they are preparing for maths methods in year 11. So if they're doing really well in pre-methods or advanced maths, that means yes, general maths should be quite easy for them. But on the same note, I'll say if a student is undertaking pre-methods and they're doing really well, I would encourage them to actually aim for maths methods because they are already preparing for maths methods. Yep. Thank you, Brandon.
Fiona, could you talk a little bit about scaling of study scores? In particular, we're being asked about psychology and biology study scores.
Yes, Lauren might be able to be better placed to speak about psychology in particular. Lauren, if you would like to do that.
Sure. Psychology, it's actually quite similar to biology in terms of scaling. It will either, if you're scoring around the 25 to 30 mark, it usually stays the same, might go scale down by 1. 30 to 40s usually stay the same. There's not a lot of scaling involved in either psychology or biology. And anything above a 40 will either scale up by 1 or stay the same. It's not a drastic, nothing like a subject like business management or health and human where scaling is more of an issue. In those two science subjects, it's very minimal scaling either side.
Are there any other questions from families? Now's your opportunity to ask them. We always know that maths methods is a very popular subject for many of the students who think that they need that as a prerequisite to get into many courses. And I might just ask Satnesh to talk about that because it's always something that tends to come up at subject selection time and in our subject selection interviews. So Satnesh, could I ask you just to talk about the prerequisites and whether mathematical methods is a prerequisite for a lot of university or tertiary courses?
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. In fact, over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years, universities have actually changed the requirements slightly. I know back in the day, to do all, I would say any medical courses required maths methods, but that's not the case anymore. So I know for a fact, Melbourne and Monash, they have actually changed some of the requirements. So now they're saying, just a pass in maths. So it could be any maths. It could be the special methods or further maths. So I think the best advice I could give here is to, look up the university websites and, go and scroll through and look for the particular course that you are keen on doing after finishing year 12 and read through, and it will very clearly state. So if the requirement is not there to do methods, I would actually strongly encourage students, to pick up further maths and have a better chance of getting a higher study score in further maths. So overall, generally speaking, not all sciences require methods as a prerequisite, right? There are some courses only. So what we can do is actually, when you come for subject selections, and if this question rises, what I normally do is just do a quick search on the university website and have a look, the particular course which students want to enroll into after finishing year 12. Does it require methods? Right? If it's not, then the students can make a decision, right, what maths they want to undertake. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, Satnesh. Perhaps also talk about the step up from year 10 mathematics to the VCE mathematics in year 11. We know that a lot of students end up finding that mathematical methods is a very difficult subject and tend to move at the end of semester 1 or before then because it is such a big step from a lot of the Year 10 mathematics. Perhaps you could explain that a little bit more.
Yes, Brandon. With maths methods, we do have at year 10 level, we do have the pre-methods and the core plus subjects, which actually do prepare students for maths methods. But coming into a VCE maths methods program, it is a big step up, as Esther was saying. The requirements of the course is much higher than what students would require in year 10, and the workload would be much higher. And we normally have lots of students on day one enrolling for maths methods, and sometime through the course, normally towards the end of first semester, then they decide, now it's too difficult for me, I want to opt down maybe into general maths, or maybe completely want to give it maths up. Yes, the workload is there. I'd be very open and honest with with all of you. um, Stepping up from year 10 maths into maths methods does require a greater, I would say, in terms of the workload or the work ethic, right? There's more work to be done. There's lots of homework set. So, yep, it does require the students to put in a lot of hard work to get the required scores they need. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, Satnesh. Would anyone else like to comment at this stage? Just to sum up, I think we don't have any more questions coming in. Oh, sorry, there is one. Can you explain the difference between biology and environmental science? I might ask Fiona to cover that one.
Yes, look, this is not my area of expertise in some respects as a chemistry and physics teacher. Biology looks at the working of the cells. Actually, Lucas, you would be perfectly positioned to talk about biology, and then I'll talk a little bit about environmental science.
Yeah, so biology is mainly focused on the workings of the human body, how different processes happen within the body, and how we as humans actually work and exist. It's very interesting, and it's very from the ground up in terms. Like, there's a lot of very basic stuff going from genes and chromosomes all the way to like how we develop different mutations for like eye color and other interesting things like that.
Thanks, Lucas. So yeah, the focus is on those bodily systems, looking at evolution, as you just mentioned, also the genetics component. When you're considering environmental science, then you're looking, you've got a focus on the environment. So looking at how we treat the environment, you're looking at environmental pollutants, and also then how you would actually protect the environment. So they'll be going out and doing some water sampling. They'll be doing sampling of plant and animal species that might be in a particular area. So surveying areas and looking at changes over time. So they do a number of case studies in environmental science, as well as a growing amount of field work. There are some study design changes coming up in environmental science and biology next year too, but the content's not going to change a huge amount. It's a bit rearranged, probably more than huge changes at this point in time.
And Miss, if I may, sorry,
Yes.
Brendan, I just wanted to say for environmental science, I did environmental science unit 1. It's quite an involved subject, and for students who are thinking of picking that subject, I'd say you'd want to be quite dedicated to it. It can sneak up on you, and there is quite an amount of workload for that subject, even though you might think there wouldn't be, especially for a unit 1 subject. You gotta love the environment to do it, and I would really recommend it because it is a great subject. But for all who are thinking about it, I just say be dedicated to it, as to all your subjects.
Thanks, Lucas.
Fiona, there's a question here. If you miss Unit 2 of psychology due to the half RE psychology pathway in Year 11, will Unit 3 and 4 be challenging? Perhaps you could talk about all of the Unit 3 and 4 subjects and how they link with the Unit 1 and 2 for science.
Sure. I might actually get Lauren to answer the first part of this then as a psychology, from a psychology perspective, if that's okay.
Sure. So when we knew that psychology was being offered as a single unit, we made the decision to teach Unit 1 over the year instead of Unit 2. And the reason for that is there is some content in Unit 1 which we recover in Unit 3. So there was nothing in Unit 2 that overlaps that we teach again. So we decided to just teach Unit 1 instead. That being said, there is a lot of research methods on top of our content in psychology, but certainly doing Unit 1 as opposed to doing no psychology in Year 11 is better. As I said, so doing a single unit is better than doing none at all, because it does give you that introduction to Unit 3 in terms of what to expect. And in terms of the research investigation, you will have those skills built in Year 11 that you can then continue into Year 12. So you won't be disadvantaged at all by not doing Unit 2. Yeah, Unit 1 is what there is some overlap with.
Thanks, Lauren. That's the same for environmental science and also for biology. When we look at single unit and consider what would be the best for preparing students for Year 12, should they choose to follow on with those particular units, so they won't therefore necessarily be disadvantaged by having completed a single unit subject in Year 11. For most subjects, there is some prior knowledge expected as they go into Year 12, which is why we would recommend them doing those units 1 and 2 subjects as a preparation. Occasionally, students might enter a Year 12 subject without having done units 1 and 2, but that's on an individual basis that we would assess those applications, and we would be looking at how students have performed in their other subjects. So for instance, if there was a student coming into physics in Year 12, I'd be particularly interested to know how they were faring in maths in Year 11, as well as their English results and whatever other subjects they're doing, and have a conversation with them to make an informed choice about whether or not that would be suitable for them. For chemistry, there is a fair amount of knowledge that we would expect them to have from Year 11 coming into Year 12. So that's probably a bit trickier in some respects than a subject like physics. Lucas, do you want to make any comment about biology in terms of what you learn in Year 11 versus what you do in Year 12?
Yeah, sure. I'd probably say for Year 11, you learn a lot of what I would say is base biology. It can cross over with stuff that you would do in Year 10, but a majority of it is brand new. In Year 12, you'll cover a lot of new topics, but some of them will branch off of what you learned in Year 11. So, for example, we've covered chromosomes and karyotyping very lightly in Year 12, going on to mutations, which we didn't focus on as much in Year 11. With Year 11, we focused mainly on the basics of chromosomes and karyotyping, which is essentially mapping out what makes us us. So I generally say that there will be some carryover, but there is quite a lot of new learning. However, I would recommend taking that 1 and 2 of that subject if you are feeling very if you are very passionate about it.
Thank you so much, Lucas. One of the other things you might hear science teachers talking about a lot, and also students, is AOS 3. And this is where we conduct a research investigation over a period of weeks. And that happens in Year 11, and then it also happens in Year 12. So when we're looking at doing these science subjects in Year 11, that's one of the areas that students get a feel for the investigation. They start to develop the skills that they're required to demonstrate in both Years 11 and Year 12. So having done that in Year 11 is certainly advantageous for Year 12.
Fiona, if you don't mind, if I can add to that. Yeah, quite often Fiona gets approached by students that they want to pick up a science subject in Year 12 and they've not done any in Year 11. And while it's difficult for us to turn them away, it is important to know that yes, Year 11 does form the basis of the expectation for Year 12, in particular related to this AOS 3 practical investigation, because like many of our science subjects, A lot of the exam is not just based on content, it's based on the ability to comprehend research and, you know, make predictions. So it would be highly, highly recommended by all of us to undertake at least some science in year 11 if you anticipate studying it in year 12.
Thanks, Lauren. I think that was an excellent point to make. Actually, Lucas, I've got another question for you. Sorry, Jana, I haven't got many questions for you. Lucas, would you like to talk about the benefit of doing lab skills in terms of how that might be helping you in chemistry, or vice versa, actually, because even doing chemistry is really beneficial for lab skills?
Yeah, of course. So I'd say that in lab skills, what you're doing is a lot of, so lab skills' main focus is doing practicals. So learning how to read a SOP, which is a standing operating procedure, and focusing on key points, interpreting it, and building, well, not building, making a practical out of it, and then deriving a certain set of results. For example, you might be looking at how different liquids boil, for example, right? And that's the main carryover between lab skills and chemistry. In lab skills, you'll be doing a lot of practice with reading standard operating procedures and doing practicals. And this practice is what is very important for chemistry. From my experience and from what I've talked about with my friends, a lot of their problems come from doing those practicals and interpreting it and writing it into a whole question and answering it in a laboratory style. So by doing lab skills, you'll certainly be practicing those skills and getting better, and eventually moving towards perhaps a career in science where you're writing out those kinds of things in the future.
Thank you. I think that there was a question earlier about how much practical work do we do in science subjects, and it's a smaller proportion than the theory. There's a lot of content to get through. I think the advantage of doing something like lab skills is that it does give you time in the laboratory where you actually get that hands-on experience. And for students going on to university and studying science, is that when you do those prac classes, is that you're often working independently. So having that experience of doing lab skills or any pracs at school, then certainly helps you to be able to work independently, and you know, when you get into those further studies. With respect to career paths, then pursuing something like lab skills can take you directly into a science-based job. So you might be working in any number of types of laboratories. Of course, we know with COVID that COVID testing, for instance, in pathology labs is certainly a big thing at the moment, and there are certainly a huge number of jobs that that you could be going into there. That might even be at a university level, working in teaching and research laboratories as, first of all, a technical assistant, and then working your way up to being a laboratory manager over a period of years. So there's a definite career pathway there. Our captains, you know, both of them have spoken this evening about areas that they want to move into as possible career paths. And there are so many possibilities with science and with mathematics that when you don't have very much exposure to that really while you're at school, I think it's not till you get to university sometimes that you start to experience all that's on offer. A lot of universities these days offer breadth subjects within their courses, which open you up to even more opportunities. And it's a really exciting time, I think, to be seeing what's out there. In this day and age, again, while we're still talking about, well, while I'm still talking about COVID, is that not only the research behind looking at vaccines, looking at how diseases actually spread throughout a population, but also about how we communicate about science. So there are many different ways we can go in, from that research to the communication to public health. All of those types of responses involve maths and science, actually, when you look at all of that analysis of the data that goes on also. Satnesh, did you want to talk about maths careers or where people might end up?
In terms of, if you look at, for example, let's say if a student is doing maths methods in year 12, so normally if you're looking at, at universities, maths actually feeds a lot into the sciences. It feeds a lot into engineering courses, right? And then, of course, when you look at maths as a subject on its own, in the arts area, in the business management area, accounting area, right? All these areas actually, depend on maths. So when students do pick up, courses at university, and we get this all the time from our former students when they come back and visit us, and they say, I thought I was doing a Bachelor of Arts degree in accounting, but here I am after doing 3 years of the university program, I'm still doing some maths. And so a lot of fields, in fact, actually requires a lot of maths. And on its own, right, if you're looking at, for example, if somebody wants to just do pure maths at university, so they also end up, I've seen a lot of students doing pure maths ending up in the computing field, programming, coding, algorithms, right? That's a lot of, and then now looking at artificial intelligence, right? That's also a lot of maths. Also leads into the field of data and stats research. So there's, again, just like sciences, maths has also got a very, very wide area, where students can specialize into.
I know from last year's High Achievers too, from our class of 2020, it was really exciting to see how many of those students actually had been studying maths and science throughout their time at CRC Sydenham. So that was really good to see. And in terms of the courses that they end up going off into, is that we have students doing science, we have them doing biomedicine, engineering, space science. There's a huge range of areas that they can go into, which is great to see them doing that.
From here, the process is that there will be subject selection interviews with CRC Sydenham staff. Now, you're going through a process within your own 7 to 10 campus with the 7 to 10 staff. This is the final subject selection formal interview where we go through that with you, and we look at the levies that may be needing to be paid. The dates are on the screen, and you can find on our website under Join Our Community, under the Class of 2023 link, the link for North Keilor, St Albans and Caroline Springs, where you can log on to book your interview time. That it will be an online interview. A Zoom link will then be sent to you so that you can attend that interview time online. So as soon as you are ready, please select your interview time. Thank you for attending this evening. We are having these over a period of a couple of weeks. Tomorrow evening is the vocational learning and VCAL presentation. So if you are interested in perhaps vet lab skills, then tomorrow night would be a good night to attend as well, to find a little bit more out about vet lab skills and what's involved. If there's no other questions, which there doesn't appear to be, I'll thank you all for your attendance this evening and for your assistance to our presenters in giving the information to all of our future students that are going to be starting with us next year, and particularly to our learning area captains, who I think you'll agree did a fantastic job presenting this evening. So thank you to our staff and our students for this evening, and thank you for attending. And we'll leave it there. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.